Good evening. My name is Chrissy Foth, and I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Party Youth Wing. Tonight, I would like to introduce you to the Premier from a youth's perspective and tell you a bit about the Premier's involvement in youth politics. The path that Brad Wall took on his way to becoming an MLA and later the leader of the Sask Party is a path that many of our Sask Party youth members are following. We look to our Premier as an inspiration of what hard work throughout university can lead to, and I admire the role model that he represents to many youth. We have a strong youth wing that supports and looks up to our Premier. As the next generation of leaders in this province, we are very excited by the growth that this province is experiencing, and we attribute much of this to the leadership of our Premier. The economic, population, and employment growth that this province has seen over the past few years is incredible and gives us confidence as we graduate from university and look to start our careers in this province. A few years ago, if you would have asked a graduating student where they plan on working after they graduate, they probably would have told you Calgary. Today, more and more students are finding great jobs here in Saskatchewan, and the opportunities are only getting better. I asked our Saskatchewan Party Youth Wing members how they would describe our Premier in a few words. Most of them didn't understand what a few words meant and had more than enough good things to say about him. Among these descriptions were words such as fun, driven, positive, compassionate, smart, encouraging, hardworking, forward-looking, active, caring, and even young. These are all descriptions that I believe are important in a leader, and I am proud to say that the young people of our province see this in our Premier. Our Premier's friendly personality, positive attitude, and strong work ethic are characteristics that set him apart from most leaders. I greatly admire his interest in encouraging youth to become active, which has been quite evident during the time that I've been involved with the Youth Wing. Last month, there were about 25 youth members from across the province that attended the budget address. And while there were many people wanting to talk to our Premier, he still took half hour out of his schedule after the address to invite our youth group into his office to give us a tour and answer any questions we might have. This shows the great importance that he places on our youth of our province and the forward-looking approach that he has in developing our young leaders. The enthusiasm that our Premier has for promoting our province and fostering growth and development here is benefiting every citizen of our great province and is contributing to our outstanding economic growth. This enthusiasm can be seen both within our province and across our nation. Saskatchewan has become a leader in Canada. To offer a bit broader perspective on the leadership of our Premier that he demonstrates on a national and international basis, it is also my pleasure to welcome to the podium the Premier of British Columbia, the Honourable Gordon Campbell.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. Brad gave me exactly the same speech to read out. I just wanted to thank you, Brad, for being so much fun, so compassionate, and so smart. Thank you so much. It is, actually, I want to tell you this. If you have a leader and a Premier in Saskatchewan who encourages young people to get involved, you are way ahead of the game, and thank you very much, Chrissy, for all you do for the Saskatchewan Party. I thought I was going to be able to tell you when I came tonight that it was a real pleasure to get here, except for I sat down in my chair and immediately there was a shot at the BC Lions. I want to tell you that I was going to say really nice and positive things about Brad. He was elected, and then there were the Rough Riders, and they won a Grey Cup. It was sensational. And, you know, that first game, that first Grey Cup game, there I was, and I'd been working with Gary Dewar for a long time. So Gary made me, I never would have done it, he made me wear the Winnipeg Blue Bombers shirt. And Brad came up and said, "Hi, I'm Brad. Would you please wear these green beads?" So I wore these green beads. I thought, well, the green beads can't hurt. Saskatchewan won. Last year, I had a bet with Brad. I bet him the Lions would win. I was right 1 out of 3 times. And then I took on the job that everybody in Saskatchewan would expect, anyone in British Columbia, probably a quarter of our population would expect. I put on the green jersey and I went to the game. And I cheered, and I cheered, and I cheered, and I cheered. And I've known Brad for a long time, and he's not one of those guys that sort of brags a lot about his successes, but I did have 7 calls from him in the middle of the night about the Rough Riders. Having said that, you know, I know how disappointed he was at the end of that game. I want to tell you this, I was disappointed at the end of the game. And I want to tell you this year, regardless of what you heard from Tiffany, I have to say this, but the Lions are going to start winning again. And I'm sure Saskatchewan will do well as well. So this is a province on the go. This is a province ready to move, ready to take new leadership. And I can tell you, Brad Wall is someone who has taken that leadership, taken those leadership reins, and he takes that effort, that understanding of what Saskatchewan can be, and he actually shares it with everybody across this country. We live in a changed world. So one of the great things about Brad is he never talks about what Saskatchewan was. He talks about what Saskatchewan can be. He talks about what we can be as Canadians as we look into the 21st century. He talks about the New West and the power of the New West and working together to actually move opportunities, to encourage the country to move forward into the modern era. And that is, I think, a critical thing for each and every one of you here that live in Saskatchewan. You're at a leadership dinner, and I can tell you, you are celebrating a leader, a Canadian leader as well as a leader from Saskatchewan. He is... We've just come through the 2010 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games. And I can tell you, there are a number of lessons we can learn from those games. And they're lessons for Canada. And that is when we come together as a country, there is really nothing that we can't accomplish. You know, those games were seen by more people in the world than any games in the history of the Olympics, winter or summer, 3.5 billion people. They had more sponsorships from broadcast sponsorships than ever in the history of the Olympic Games, summer or winter. We actually had more people participating in the games than had ever happened before. We had about 150,000 people a night in Vancouver celebrating the Olympics. And you know, I went to Turin in 2006. And it didn't feel the Olympic spirit. And I said, when we have our Olympics, when we have Canada's Olympics, we want to be sure that every Canadian knows that they are theirs. They belong to them as Canadians. So Saskatchewan came, they had a spectacular pavilion at the Olympics. Brad came out with Tammy and the kids, and it was part of the Canadian family understanding what we could be. It reflected back to Canada in many ways, how much we can accomplish when we work together. And boy, did we ever accomplish a lot at the Olympic Games. You know what? Our athletes performed with grace in both the disappointment and in victory. And you know, we are the first country in the history of the Games to win 14 gold medals when they were held in the country. And that vision, the vision of the Games, it was reflected, I think, across the country was something that Brad Wall has always had. He's always had a vision for what Saskatchewan can be and where Saskatchewan can go. We are talking about expanding a New West partnership, of building more successes for Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. And we understand, just like with the Games, when we come together, when we build on one another's assets and strengths, there is nothing that we can't accomplish. Every goal we set for ourselves, we exceeded our expectations. I can tell you, when I first met Brad, he comes into a room and he says, you know, what are we trying to accomplish? How can we do this together? How can I help you reach your goals? How can you help me reach my goals? He is a truly great Canadian leader. He is strong. He is visionary. He's going to lead you into the 21st century. I'm glad he's the Premier of Saskatchewan. And frankly, more importantly, I'm glad he's my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Wall.